Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Stargirl, and I guess specifically Stargirl Season 2. So Stargirl was the most recent DC TV show to wrap up its season before the commencement of the newest seasons with like those new shows either have already, started already or coming in the next few months. In regards to when Stargirl Season 2 will actually premiere and hit our screens and our eyeballs, that will probably get announced somewhere towards the end of March or sometime in April. It is important to remember that they have to wait for like space to be available to air. So current shows on the CW have to wrap up their seasons. A lot of them aren't ending until like May, if not maybe even June, depending on if there's rerun weeks and stuff like that. So just wait and see. No one knows at this point. Now, heading out of Stargirl Season 1 and into Stargirl Season 2, there have been many theories and predictions for what could happen story-wise or just to particular characters. Whether that be stuff that hasn't been set up yet or things that were hinted at heading into Season 2. And in this video, we are going to go over a bunch of those, so get ready. But of course, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your opinions on all of these, as well as any other thoughts, prediction, theories, and stuff you have heading into Season 2 of Stargirl, because as you know, I'm always curious to hear them. So first up is something I think most people would, be somewhat interested in seeing or at least being referenced to, and that is former JSA members from the time of Starman that we've seen that, didn't die but made themselves out to be dead in order to maybe protect the ones that, are close to them, similar to what Pat did, or maybe they are dead and we just see some, some things in the past with them. Now, I wouldn't want this to take over the show if they do show up. It is important that the show is focused on the new generation of the JSA, so Stargirl and her friends. However, using older characters attached to the JSA could allow for some added story elements, or even just they could add to story elements that are already there. Especially when we throw in the fact like that we have an ancient villain like Eclipso that's going to be a part of this season. So due to his inclusion, we could have someone like a Dr. Fate or even one of the Hawks like Hawkman or Hawkgirl be referenced in a heavy way towards his story, or even see them in some way, shape or form like flashbacks or even in present day if they are alive. Of course, we do have the Dr. Fate helmet in the JSA HQ, which Courtney did not take, but the character could be used in flashbacks instead, or maybe a new person could grab a hold of that helmet and hold the mantle. Probably not the latter one. I think flashbacks is the more likely one if it's going to happen, but let's hope for one of them. The only issue that could come about with this is the Black Adam film that's meant to be coming out, and I think it was meant to be the end of this year, but I think I'd be surprised seeing it hasn't even started filming. So let's just say 2022. So that's an issue, but then again, the DC multiverse strategy that's been going forward with the films and TV as of recent is allowing multiple interpretations, of the same characters. So unlike before, we might be actually be able to see like multiple versions of the same character in live action in close proximity, rather than like a Deathstroke situation where one couldn't exist if the other was there. Next up is actually the Dr. Mid-Nite goggles. So obviously in the season 1 finale, was it the season 1 finale or was it the second last episode? I think it was the finale. We saw Icicle ice, I guess, the goggles to death and break them. And we're like, okay, what's going to happen there? Beth is obviously distraught at the end of season 1 because she just didn't lose what really makes her Dr. Mid-Nite, but she lost her friend. She lost Chuck. She lost Charles McNider. However, and I don't think this is too much of a spoiler because it was actually very prominent on set, and I think we're going to see it in promos and stuff before the season even airs, so I don't think it's that much of a spoiler. But Beth has been seen on set for season 2 with goggles. So she has Dr. Mid-Nite goggles again, so that isn't that much of a spoiler because it was already seen online a lot. Even though I think the actress even posted on her Instagram, or one of the actors did on the Instagram with her in that suit. Now, there were rumors heading into season 2 that Charles McNider himself, or Dr. Mid-Nite, would actually be in season 2. So not just the voice of the actor, who is Henry Thomas, but the actor himself would be in the season. Now, whether that's a descendant of Charles McNider, or it's like a flashback or something like that, or he's not actually dead, which would be weird because like Pat got the goggles and stuff from the body, I assume, because we saw him get taken by the Shade. Maybe the Shade didn't kill him. Maybe the Shade's in season 2, and the Shade is the one that we see grab Dr. Mid-Nite in that opening battle from episode 1 of season 1. So maybe Dr. McNider, or Dr. Mid-Nite, might I say, is not dead, and the Shade has him or something. So maybe that's how he appears. Who knows? But there's been talk that apparently the actor's in season 2. So the goggles are back, but we could also have the original Dr. Mid-Nite himself in some way, shape, or form. And maybe it's a bad take on him because Shade's involved. Who knows? Now, the next one is a common one I've seen over the internet for the past, I want to say few months, but it might only be a couple of months, like over the Christmas and holiday period. And it wasn't one that immediately showed up after the show ended on like DC Universe and the CW, but it was after people started binge watching recently on places like HBO Max and stuff like that, as I said, like over the holiday period and the new year. And that is that the Starman we see at the end of season 1, who of course we're led to believe is Sylvester Pemberton, is actually another Starman in disguise, that being Will Payton. So in the comics, Will Payton was I think the 6th person to hold the Starman mantle, and he was a pretty overpowered character. So in the comics, Will was actually hit by a beam of like energy that pretty much turned him into a living star, or a living Starman. Now in the comics, Will has a varied amount of abilities, but one he has, which is a way that they could work this in, is a form of self-alteration, or if you want to term it or phrase it differently, shape-shifting, which isn't super detailed. He's not like a super detailed shapeshifter like you would see with other things, like a Martian Manhunter or something like that, but it allows him to alter himself nonetheless. He can still change his appearance, in different ways. Now, whether the abilities would be enough to turn him into the looks of Sylvester Pemberton is another question, but the show could interpret it in their own way that better serves the story. So he can maybe turn himself completely into someone else, completely with voice changing and everything like that, but maybe he can only do it for a certain amount of time, or even if they wanted to do it in a weird way, he can only do it if he's in sunlight. They could do it. I mean, the end of season 1, it's John McHale's Sylvester Pemberton walking through the sunlight of Los Angeles or California, so that could work. And the only thing that this brings up in regards to why he would, change himself is why he would do this. Like, what's his whole purpose here? And I think it has to do with Eclipso, you'd have to think. So once again, in the comics, Will can actually see over the multiverse, including time, which would include seeing whatever as well as whenever Eclipso would be up to doing something. And I guess you'd add this sneaky last addition here in connection between Will Payton and Eclipso, that Will actually sacrifices himself to take down Eclipso in the early 90s in the comics. So you could have him posing as Sylvester to get in to maybe, deal with the Eclipso situation, and maybe he's staying undercover, with the Sylvester look to do his job or something like that. I think there's a lot of plot holes you could get with this, which is why I think they could go down a different road, but there has been this constant talk about Will Payton potentially being the actual Starman in this show for season 2, and he's just making himself look like Sylvester Pemberton to maybe, as I said, stay undercover and just get himself in with the group, if that makes sense, with Pat and stuff. So we'll have to see what happens there, but it's a decent theory. Next up is just some predictions or wants, if you could say, heading into season 2 or maybe beyond in regards to characters. So the first one is, people really want a speedster on this show, and don't get me wrong, I do as well. I think if they do a speedster on the show, it has to be a very classic take on a speedster where they're not overly overpowered, so they can run fast, but they're not like what we see Barry on the show. It's more just fast person, if that makes sense. It's not like ultra speed like we see with the Flash TV show. So Jesse Chambers or Jesse Quick is the one that I think a lot of people would want. I think he should fit in with the group if they went down that route. The only thing you could argue is okay, well, it's another female member. Should we have another male member? Well, that's where you could chuck in Obsidian, who is Todd Rice. That's his name. So we have Jesse Chambers, who's Jesse Quick, and then we have Obsidian, who is Todd Rice. Now, we have had Obsidian in Legends of Tomorrow. He was the guy that made everything dark, if you know what I mean, in that Legends of Tomorrow JSA. Now, the fun fact around him is that he's actually the son of Alan Scott, or the original Green Lantern, and he's also the twin brother of Jenny Lynn Hayden, aka Jade, who is set to be in season 2 as well. So we might not meet him in season 2, or maybe we meet him late, but maybe we could have some setup for him. In the comics as well, he doesn't know that he has a twin sister, so he learns about Jenny Lynn Hayden or Jade after the fact. So he's grown up and then learns at her, I think when he was a late teen or something like that. So they don't grow up together. Maybe in the show they changed that, but those are some characters that would be pretty cool to see. And you have a male and female new member there, so why not go for it? And the last theory is one we've discussed before in the channel, but I thought I'd bring it up again. I think it's important too. And that's that Beth and or Yolanda, it could be both or it could be one of them, is actually controlled by Eclipso. And this is a reference to Eclipso actually killing both of those characters in the comics. So they won't die in the show. I highly doubt they're going to kill them off in the show. I think that'd be a mistake. But have them controlled by Eclipso, and that's a reference to them. But they'll be controlled at certain points. And I guess it depends what they do, whether they actually do bad things or if it's just that like they get angry and stuff, because Eclipso brings out the worst in them and the dark side within them and everything like that. But I think that'd be a good way to reference them and give like a bit of a nod to the comics without actually doing what the comics did. And if it's both of them, it'd be interesting to see if they're controlled at the same time or separately. So if Eclipso can control both of them and, you know, give them the darkness, if you want to call it, would he do it at the same time, or is it going to be separately? It'd be interesting if it was at the same time. We just see multiple people getting controlled, and makes Eclipso more and more powerful. The more and more people that are controlled and, you know, descend into that darkness. That'd be interesting. And then the Courtney's maybe like the light in that darkness. You know, the cosmic staff and its lighting up abilities. So that'd be interesting. But I think that's something that I can expect to happen because I just don't see them being killed off. But I can see them referencing it. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all to go over in this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you found it somewhat interesting. And I wonder if you guys agree that any of this could happen. If you enjoyed the video, it would be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions on what we went over. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.